Welcome back, friends. Um, a second recommendation I wanted to bring out. There were others, but I'm bringing out Auxiliary Bishop Schneider and then Dan Burke. I've had courses with Dan Burke, and I think he is just a real, like Schneider, someone to take note of. Dan Burke states, David Torkington is a man who understands Catholic mystical tradition. If you allow him, if you allow him, he will lead you into the depths of prayer and into the heart of God. Having studied the mystical doctors, especially Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross, I agree with Burke. In the episodes that will follow, and I'll try to lay out the reasons for that conviction of mine. Um, Burke's formal assessment of Torkington is striking in its clarity and confidence. Um, the endorsement is not given lightly. Burke is a co-founder of the Avila Institute and a leading voice in contemporary Catholic spiritual formation. He's devoted his life to preserving and transmitting the wisdom of the Church's mystical doctors. And when he attests to Torkington's fidelity, he speaks from deep familiarity within the tradition. Torkington's strength lies in his ability to articulate this tradition in language that is accessible yet doctrinally exact. He does not soften the demands of the interior life, nor does he portray contemplation as a specialized vocation. He situates the reader firmly within the path walked by the saints, and his work shows that the journey toward the heart of God begins in humility, advances through perseverance, and is sustained by grace working in silence and surrender. The resonance with St. Teresa of Avila is clear. Teresa teaches that prayer is fundamentally a relationship, as we've mentioned, and Torkington echoes her realism. The dryness, the distraction, and struggles are not failures, but stages in which God enlarges the soul's capacity for Him. John of the Cross forms another pillar of this tradition. Torkington incorporates the truth with John of the Cross's truth, that union with God requires purification with pastoral clarity, helping readers understand that suffering, when united with Christ, becomes the very means through which God prepares the soul for deeper union. And Thomas Aquinas stands behind the same teaching. Aquinas defines contemplation as a simple, loving gaze upon divine truth and identifies charity as a virtue that unites the soul to God. Torkington's emphasis on being drawn into the heart of God reflects Aquinas's vision of contemplation as a foretaste of heaven. St. John Henry Newman adds yet another dimension. Newman emphasizes that authentic Christianity unfolds through interior action, an interior assent to grace, quiet fidelity to duty, and a growing awareness of God's presence. He cautions against reducing religion to external observance or intellectual theory. The heart must be surrendered. Um, Burke's words reveal something essential about the spiritual journey. The path of prayer is a movement into God, led by God. To be drawn into the depths of prayer and into the heart of God implies growth, purification, and transformation. A reflection question: what steps can I take this week to walk more faithfully along the path of prayer the mystical tradition sets before me?
I think that one of the most profound, unthought of truths, right, that comes with this is that we think that we take ourselves to prayer. Right? We think that it is an act of perfect autonomy, and yet it is God who takes us to prayer, right? It is Him He is the great initiator, right? He is the Father. It is He who is the progenitor, as it were, of the relationship that even exists. And it's important for us to be mindful of that, to know that the time that you set aside for God is time that he's already set aside for you, right? That moment that you are prepared to meet him, you think, well, I'm going to set aside this day. He's already set that time aside for you. So, and I think it's very interesting too, just that the elements of, Saint Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross, that, we want everything yesterday. We want what we want because we want it. And when prayer doesn't deliver the same way Amazon does, we become very jaded. We're a very, very impatient people, but we serve a very patient God. So I always used to call him, the God of the 11th hour, 11th hour, 11:59:59, right? I mean, he does not answer anything until he needs to. And that when I was younger, that you really used to frustrate me, right? If I have to wait till the 11th hour, Lord, why do I have to do all the work up until that moment? And I slowly came to realize that that answer that comes only when it must was a real protection of me from the attack of Satan. Because Satan, if God started giving me the answer at 10 o'clock when I didn't need to know it until 11:59:59, it gives the enemy a lot of time to attack me over that answer, right? So we who live in an impatient world, who's annoyed when our phone call doesn't go through immediately, right? Kind of to go back to the beginning of this little recording session, Karen and I often find that there's a struggle, particularly with technology, anytime that we want to talk about Our Lady. And we just want everything to work the way that it should, right? Everything, and any other day, it just does everything that it should right away. And we'll have a tendency to get somewhat impatient with the technology and not appreciate the astoundingness of the technology. Here we are, when we were children, this would have been from, a Disneyland configuration, or, the Fred Flintstone, being able to talk to somebody, or the Jetsons, right? Being able to talk to somebody and see them while you talk to them, right? So we need to bring that level of wonder and awe into the patience of the prayer that we have with God, right? If we're not expecting anything, God can deliver everything. But if we're expecting everything, God can deliver nothing.
Very true. That is very true. So let's end there, and we'll pick up on the next episode, a brief biography of David Torkington. Till then, my friends, Fide Sriracha.